All right. Hi, everyone. I just kind of was just thinking about this openly. You have the Mother series, and you have Mother 1, Mother 2, Mother 3, and then, the spin-offs. And, it's kind of a hot take, but, Itoi basically said at the end of Mother 3 that was essentially it for the series. He kind of said that was the end of his vision. I mean, yes, he did want to kind of do 3 originally on N64, that didn't work out, but he kind of said that is his closed vision. He kind of said, I've expedited my vision of this series, and that he wants the 4th one potentially to be made by a fan. And so in that same kind of vein, what you get is, all the spin-offs like Undertale and Deltarune. And so my hot take on this series, if you were to kind of consider Undertale, I mean, there are other probably Earthbound style sequels. I think there's one called like Save the Earth or Planet Earth, where you play as like the president. It's one of the smaller indie games. I mean, they're all small indie games, obviously, but obviously Undertale has kind of cemented itself as the main one. And so after playing Mother 1, 2, 3, and Undertale, and the first part of Deltarune, and a few other spin-offs, what is my opinion on this entire series is kind of odd, which is that I'd say out of all of these, like the most effective and best and concise game is Undertale. Yeah, and that's it was something that really shocked me initially, because I'm so used to spin-offs being inspired or derivative in some sense. All games, or at least in most indie games now, they're kind of just copying old Nintendo formulas that haven't been popular for a while and just rejuvenating them, essentially. And I think it's funny that Earthbound, as beloved as it is, and I just saw this thread recently of this guy replaying it, and he was like, yeah, it's fine, but it's not great. It's not this 10 out of 10 amazing game that everyone said it was. And I think Earthbound's main issue and its main problem is that it's kind of unstructured, and yeah, it's quirky, it's random, but it's a little bit too random in some sense. In the sense that you have some of the main quests that feel like you're doing side quests, like getting the book for the guy who's too shy so he can lift a rock and things like that. And it's fine and it's fun and it's it's structured like that. But the main recurring issue is that there's no strong overarching theme in Earthbound. Rather, with Mother 1 and 2, they're very, very strong and very concise and very fixed. For example, the main thing I think in Earthbound is the world theme. You go to all these places and you find each note for a song. And so at the end of the game, and I can't remember exactly what happens actually, but the song allows you to essentially go and access the final dungeon, the final area of the final boss, and that's kind of like all it does. While in Mother 1, which I think arguably might, in terms of story, might actually be the strongest of that entire series, the music and the song that you get is not only thematically important, but mechanically important, because throughout that entire adventure, each one of the notes is for a specific song for the Queen of Magicant, so that you can like wake up the princess or something. But what it really does in the end is, of course, it dispels Magicant and it wakes up the queen from her slumber, and she realizes it's all a dream and it all dissolves. And then, additionally to that, you end up using it in the final boss fight against the final boss as the main kind of weird or the weird mechanic that you don't expect. Similar to Undertale, where you have the mercy mechanic, which is interesting because that's used throughout the entire experience. And I was just thinking about, the power of music, so to speak, and how that's a common trend in a lot of Nintendo games. For example, my favorite game of all time, Ocarina of Time, and this is another reason why I really prefer Ocarina versus Link to the Past. It's still like a good game. It's like a solid game, the peak of 2D Zelda, but the fact that you don't really use music a lot in that game versus Ocarina, where music becomes the element by which you change the weather and the sun and the moon, and you can teleport, and you use that innocent lullaby to access the hidden, secrets of the world. And it's just such a more engaging aspect to it that even Nintendo itself versus even other games, you don't even see that anymore. It's such a fascinating mechanic because in the final fight, at least in Earthbound, yes, you do use prayer as the main kind of gimmick mechanic to defeat the final boss. But, what is prayer? It's intention, it's mental, it's mind over matter energy. But a song is the same kind of idea, but it's much more choreographed, it's structured. It's like, okay, we're going to take this idea, but we're going to give it structure and rhythm, and we're going to turn it into something that is almost compressed. And you think about, this is similar to essentially what Bach was trying to do. A lot of his music, and just the genius of Bach, and the fact that counterpoint even exists, which is an insane musical thing that you can't describe until you hear it, as like a counter melody inside the main melody that's like fighting against it and dancing together. But the main thing he was trying to do was make music that would actually be used during service, during the religious, in church, that people could sing and commune in this singular circle. It wasn't just the priest with, the Latin, whatever, Vulgate Bible going directly to the people, and the communion going directly to the people, but they would also interact back with the choir and the chorus, and they would all have a communal, universal participation via the music, which again, along with prayer, is the implementation of ideas in a more structured, higher level that also reverberates and creates this amazing effect that kind of manifests that idea in that area. And so it's just funny to me that you have certain games and certain books and certain movies where and again, this is very thematic, where in Mother 3, I believe, like when you're fighting the final boss, it's the same, like it's the main theme or the starting theme or the beginning theme of the game, and it's all kind of a callback. And you'll see this in other games where the final boss theme is just the main theme, but kind of remixed in a certain way, or the main menu theme, like but now it has guitars and percussion, it's more intense. And of course Nier does this all the time, right? Because in Nier you have certain areas like Shadow Lord's Castle, where in the beginning foyer, not the castle, is not the theme of the Shadow Lord, but the Shadow Lord's Castle, you have the main castle theme for when you're walking around, and then you have the combat theme when enemies appear. And so you just have vocals, and suddenly when you're in a combat, then like percussion kicks in and other instruments kick in. And so it's this elevation of that same idea and thought. And so it's just always been the coolest mechanic to me. Honestly, in Mother 1, people should really play Mother 1, where the song and the music is the aspect and the implementation of that idea. It's not just prayer, because prayer is just intention and thought, but it's the elevation of prayer into a structured manifestation, a summarization almost, if you will, that is defeating this boss, and of course giving him, the boss itself is giving him memories of his previous, not his previous life, but his upbringing, that then overrides his ego, and it kind of brings him back to his humanity and his caring side and the maternal side of how he was raised, which is the entire point of the Mother series. And so I'm just thinking about the power of music, and I guess I should at this point link this back to Undertale somehow. I can't remember if the power of music plays an actual mechanical role in Undertale. Certainly thematically, like the Ends theme being a remix of the main theme and Asriel's theme. They're all I can't remember if it's the exact same theme or the main theme just kind of remix, but the main lullaby in Undertale is super important because that plays throughout. And so thematically you get that idea of the innocence and the childhood, you know, and as that's the main thing that, again, saves the day, similar to Mother 3, which is, again, I feel like the major inspiration for a lot of Earthbound clones because, I don't know, maybe there's a way to tell which games have been inspired by Earthbound and which games have been inspired by Mother 3. I kind of doubt many people just played Mother 1 and then went off to make a game. Because with Mother 3, it's much more emotional than Earthbound. Earthbound has a very unstructured story, and that's the one thing I really just don't like about it. It's very quirky and it's fine and it's cute, and there's a lot of very cool moments. And the end scene feels really cool, and it's very fascinating and I love it, but it still in a way feels disconnected from the overall story and everything you've been through. It's like it felt more like an episodic TV series where every scenario was a different episode, while with Mother 3 it feels like, yeah, it's still pretty episodic, you're playing as different characters, but it's still going towards kind of an end goal and an arc goal that is a holistic story experience. And I was just thinking about other games where music acts as a mechanical thing. Speaking of Nier, for example, something that's really interesting there is that, again, the music thematically, is very dynamic in Nier. It literally is dynamic music, which is music that will essentially change the music bit depending on what you're doing. And it's not like you can do it for every single action, but you can at least do it for battle themes and field themes and everything in between. And Shadow Lord even is a perfect example because, the way it's composed is that it almost fits perfectly that cutscene. And then it's kind of confusing or interesting to ask, was the music first and then the theme? Was the music first and then the cutscene, or was the cutscene first and then the music was made to fit that cutscene? Because immediately as the main choral aspect finishes and the boss fight starts, it just goes into percussion and all the crazy, battle theme version of the song. But something else that was interesting in Nier is that Grimoire Weiss, he uses magic, and his magic is, words, and the words themselves. And this is a weird thing that I really didn't pick up until unfortunately, you have to play Nier quite a few times to get the full context. But I think in the very beginning of the game, when you first get Grimoire Weiss, he says that he specifically uses blood magic, and that words contain the blood. And of course, it is a kind of mechanic in the game wherein you attach magical words to each weapon to give it like +5 slash damage or +5 magic damage and whatnot. But those words themselves, I don't think they were actually used as lyrics in the songs, even though there was a lot of experimentation with the music in Nier via Chaos language, the Desert People language, and the normal language of like the starting town. It was all kind of like, what would French or Japanese or German sound like 100 years in the future? Just like if you listen to Old English, it's like, yeah, I can kind of hear it, but it sounds way too different. But yeah, so it was something that I always skipped over, and I always remember that Grimoire Weiss, he said that words are blood and blood is magic. And so by using the words in the book and channeling blood magic, that's how Grimoire Weiss's magic actually works, by these words which somehow contain blood. And I always thought in the beginning of that cutscene where you're doing the first boss, that every time I use Weiss, it would drain my health rather than my magic meter. But no, they just gave you a magic meter. But it sounded like, from his description, that it's supposed to drain your health because it uses blood, but the words contain blood. And you find more words throughout the course of the story, and you get stronger attacks. And yeah. The other thing that's really cool is that when, of course, someone gets the Black Scrawl, it's actually these words that appear on their flesh. And it seems almost as if, like, the code for the system of the Gestalt system for the androids as the soul, because Grimoire Noir, took the souls out of the body, and they were all designed as a hybrid between, Drakengard and human technology. So when you see the Black Scroll, in my mind, it was always like, oh, that's actually the code for the program that allowed the soul to exit. And now that the soul is coming back into the body, it's now appearing. And again, these words, they just lack the ability to be strung into sounds. And so it's again this correlation between sounds, words, meaning, intention, vibration. It's like, I'm not just going to tell you what I'm just going to tell you what I think, but I'm going to encode it in a vibrational pattern that is incredibly memorable. And you think about just music in general, and like, you can never remember the name of a song, but sometimes you can remember the chorus or the bridge. And sometimes that's the name of the song, and sometimes it's completely something weird and different. You have to remember, okay, that's the song that goes da 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 is actually called something completely different, like Tub Thumping, But yeah, there's this really fascinating correlation between music affecting the environment, and then in Nier's case also being tied to blood. And I guess the only other mechanic I can think of right now that includes music and blood is Bloodborne. And I feel like there should be more nuances and connections in Bloodborne on this topic. But the first one that comes to mind is Father Gascoigne, where if you can find the music box that belonged to his daughter, who I think essentially she's still alive until after that fight, and then just all the NPCs just die, whatever. And so you play that music box during the fight, and it basically stuns him. And so again, an example of an in-game music acting as a mechanic, not just as a theme, not just, oh yeah, Father Gascoigne's theme is also a more intense theme of when you talk to the scroll or something, as an example. But no, it's like the music box actually does something in the world. Like Ocarina, you play a song, a fairy appears, a waterfall parts, a shrine appears, you get teleported. Something happens in the world because of music, because music is the essence that binds the world together. And similarly, in Mother 1, it's not only connection between music and the environment, it's music and reality and dreams and memory that ultimately saves the day. I would say like Mother 1's ending is one of the most powerful, fascinating endings of all time, especially of the whole Mother series. I would say I would not even argue that, like, between Mother 3 and whatever. So I really didn't have a point with this when I started. I just was thinking, and I wanted to ramble, and I wanted to talk about this because it was just clicking over in my mind. But yeah, I would love to see more games use music as a mechanic. Even Nintendo themselves don't even use this as much as even their competitors, or anyone for that matter. But I was thinking, even a game like Final Fantasy XIV, you're going to spend hundreds of hours with certain characters and locations and stories and musical themes, but it's not until you listen to Flow that it begins to congeal into a singular, massive idea that, you can listen to that song multiple times and think about all the different paths you've been on, the situations, either story-based, or you had a weird, distinct multiplayer experience with a certain friend or a companion or something like that. Because Flow is supposed to be this encapsulation, this ultimatum, and this kind of final point of this massive journey you've been on from the beginning of the game to Endwalker, more or less. And and it's you could listen to it multiple times and think of multiple different scenarios, like, oh yeah, I forgot about that time in Heavensward when this happened or whatever. And it's so cool to me that you can take hundreds of hours of gameplay and story and characters and development and try to in some way encapsulate it into a 3-minute song. That is kind of magical. And what's also magical about it is you can share it with someone else. Of course, if they never play Final Fantasy XIV, they don't have to play hundreds of hours, and they're not going to get the full appreciation of it. But they're going to listen to Flow and be like, oh, wow, this is actually really nice. This is actually, this is a nice song. And you can tell there is a depth of appreciation and emotion behind it that is warranted by the people who really love it, because people who love the game also love the song. And so music, in a way, it's a very thematic thing, but I think even for games, it's even more so, because you're essentially trying to boil down a very long and intense experience into a singular idea. And that's why I love, especially boss fights or scenarios that just have that one song that's trying to just, this is the identity of the game, of this entire experience. Persona 5, even the end of it's not specifically a holistic encapsulation, but the end of Control, when you're in the infinite hallways and you do that whole kind of like run and gun scenario, that's super fun and super cool, and suddenly you have this like this rock song with lyrics out of nowhere after like atmospheric music for like 30 hours. It's like, oh, this is actually super cool. And I guess most of Remedy's games have had that theme where they've had that one band, I forget, like Rockers or Lords of the North or something, who do all of their music for all their games. But yeah, I mean, music has always, inhabited a thematic essence. Halo is another good example, where the main menu, it gives you the choral, the not the orchestra. Well, there's a bit of orchestra in the menu, but it's mainly choral, Gregorian chants, and then you get into combat, and you get into the end of the game and the final run for the final ship out of Halo, and you have the final theme, and you have the chorus, and it leads into drums and violins and da-da-da-da, etc. And so thematically, games have very much figured that aspect out, that the music thematically should reflect your hero's journey from where you start to where you end at the same kind of point, and in the same way that you've lived this experience, that there's an added aspect, an added flavor, an added instrumental, an added vocal on top of the main theme that you're used to, that kind of brings it all together in a wonderful story beat. But I guess what I'm looking at is actually the mechanical aspects of music in games. Again, some of my favorites, like Ocarina definitely does this. Bloodborne kind of does it in that one instance. And I'm just thinking about other games now. Or Mother 1 obviously does it. And again, it was just very disappointing in Earthbound, coming from Mother 1, where, yeah, okay, we got all the notes of all the places, and it's all these memories, but the song itself doesn't really do much. It just kind of like, okay, it was like a check mark on the game saying, yeah, okay, you did everything. Here you go. And the theme itself was like just a bunch of thumping. It wasn't like a major thing, but I think it was the same kind of basic beat for the main theme. I guess on that though, speaking of mechanical musical aspects, I forgot in Earthbound, there is still some of that in there. For example, music has always been a huge aspect of Earthbound and the Mother series. For example, in Mother 3, there's always some band you have to save, or some band that has a big musical number, and that's the main kind of the big wow moment of the game. There's a big stage production, and I think in Mother 3 it was like AC/DC, like a version of AC/DC that you had to help out, and in Earthbound it was the Highway 5 or something, or the Big 5 or something, And I think the first time you actually encounter them, because there are multiple times in the game, is that you're going from Twoson to Threed, and essentially the tunnel is filled with ghosts, and the only way to keep the ghosts away is to play music. So you basically have to get the band back together in Twoson and have them go through the tunnel in Threed in order to progress the game. So again, there's another example of not directly like you're actually doing it, but music acting as a mechanic to progress you through the game, not just as, oh yeah, this theme reminds me of this idea. So there is some of that in Earthbound, but then it kind of just goes away. And I think later you have to help, the band out again, and they help you out as well. But I don't know, it's just really curious to me how you have these connections between the song summarizing a specific idea and utilizing that as a mechanic in a game. And of course people are going to bring up, well, what about rhythm games? Or not just rhythm games, but like rhythm action games, like what's it called? The Tango Gameworks Hi-Fi Rush, and games like that where you attack on the beat, Crypt of the Necromancer, etc. And okay, I mean those kind of work, but I mean that's literally every single move you make is part of the music mechanic of the game, which is like okay, but I don't know. I mean, it could be something like even like Devil May Cry 3 with the Nirvana guitar. You're literally shooting like sonic beams at demons and using it as a weapon and shredding on it. And again, that's just one like small part of the game, but I don't know what the correct balance is, because another one I think is perfect, that you assemble this thing like it's a super weapon, but they're just notes to a song, and it ends up becoming the main mechanic by which you defeat the final boss. I just think, again, like the combination between dreams and blood and song, and the fact that a song can implement or act as a representation for essentially anything, any idea, just on a higher level. It's just like if I were to give you a textbook about economics. Most of the questions in those textbooks end up having a story, or something like, if train A is going towards this thing at 50 miles an hour, train B is going 40 miles an hour this way, when are they going to meet, kind of idea. And so you have a narrative, and suddenly it's more engaging. So in the same way we can take information and philosophy and elevate it by turning it into a story, you can also take an idea and a feeling and elevate it into a song, and you have story and song together, incorporating some of the best experiences ever, which I think games do very, very well. Another example is Drakengard 3. I don't think the other Drakengards did this, but when it's a small thing, but when you're fighting a Zero and you have the main battle music, and you go into intoner mode where you use the blood that you're covered with. I don't think this is fair because it's the same. It's Yoko Taro, so the whole blood song, whatever connection, is not new here. But the blood powers her, and the song and the vocals kick in the music. So you're not just listening to the normal music anymore, and now suddenly it's like it's powered up. And it just sounds and feels so cool. It would be great though if the combat didn't feel like hitting a bunch of wet sponges and ran at like 15 FPS. But hey, what are you gonna do? But yeah, I didn't really have a direction when I started this. It was a neat observation. I'm talking about the Mother series, and Undertale and Deltarune. I hope Deltarune. I don't know. Toby Fox is watching me with his hawk eyes now. I hope Deltarune maybe incorporates that idea of music as being this thing which can actually change the world around us. But yeah, I think it's funny that we have these games now where you don't have to play them. Even like your tertiary normie friends, they don't have to play them to at least listen to and appreciate the music. It's kind of a sad joke about the best, best worst, no, Chrono Cross. So, I mean, I played Chrono Trigger. I thought it was pretty good. But the music, though, really kind of outshines the game in some ways, like especially the ancient theme. But it's more so in Chrono Cross because actually playing that game, everyone says, Chrono Cross, the music is amazing. But what no one ever tells you is that the game kind of just sucks. I'm not sure this is my opinion, but I started Chrono Cross and just, even the art of the characters felt off. I just did not care about Chrono Cross at all. Like, I played maybe an hour and said, okay, I don't care. Like, I just do not care enough. And, but, the opening to that game is just, it is immaculate. It is beautiful with the drum. Like, you have the soft, I think, violins. I don't think there's vocals yet. And it does like the whole like preamble to the story, and then it shows the main guy with the light going up around him, and the percussion comes in, and it's so good. It gets me hyped every single time I see it. It is beautiful. It's one of the best intros, I would say, to a game. Definitely in the top 20-ish for sure. But the rest of the game isn't really worth it, in my opinion. I mean, I haven't played it, but from what I saw, I just did not care enough to play it. But that intro, like, it's worth playing. It's worth buying a version of Chrono Cross for the PS1 just to watch that intro, because there's something about it on the full stereo system that you're not going to get from just a YouTube video. I don't know how to describe it, but I just cycled and looped and watched that intro so many times, even though I had seen it online before. It's like, okay, this is really, 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 really good. You felt it, essentially. So yeah, music has a very transcendent ability to really just push an experience to the absolute better version of it. And this is honestly, like, I will be fully blunt. This is why I am a Sonic fan. I love Sonic the Hedgehog, asterisk, up until like 2006, because regardless of the quality of the games, even Sonic 06, I would include in here, it has really good music. And it's something about the idea and the attitude and the music of Sonic just all coalescing into a perfect idea, perfect form. And it's true, like, my favorite games, Legend of Zelda, Sonic, Halo, Nier, all the games that I would say also have the best music, Metal Gear Solid, Metroid Prime to a lesser extent, all the games that have my favorite music also are also my favorite games. Final Fantasy 10 specifically. I guess the only weird one on that is Dark Souls, because not really known for its music, but it's still a good game. But I'm not. I guess that's one example of, can you have an amazing game and have no really intense music or good music and still succeed? It's like, yeah, sure. And in fact, it's the absence of music in Dark Souls that makes it so interesting and distinct, because it gives you that sense of isolation, of thematic-less essence, that you're in a crypt full of skeletons, dude. There is no music playing. There is nothing is going on to help you or save you. You should feel scared and alone. And then you'll have occasionally, like, you'll have boss themes that are just chants and choirs, and I don't really care for those. They're extra. They're too much. They're trying too hard. And they're fine, and they're kind of forgettable, honestly, in my opinion. But then you have some themes where it's like the Ancient Dragon. Ooh, baby. The Ancient Dragon, that's good. And it's for that one specific area. It's the actual first time you have an area theme, and it's these deep chants out of nowhere. And because the game has been so quiet for that long, it really impacts you. So I think the absence of music, as well as the addition of music, can have such a powerful effect on the player. Like Metal Gear Rising. Like, there are so many people that I think know the game because of the songs from it rather than, and the memes from it rather than actually playing it. And like Rising, like it's fine. There's nothing really to compare it to because it doesn't play like a Metal Gear game. So you can't, it's different enough that I can't compare it to Metal Gear. And it's kind of weird to compare it to other action games because it's different enough in so many ways that, you know, it's good for what it is. Like, it's the best of its own genre, you know. Of all the Metal Gear Rising games, it's the only one. And it's great in that own genre because it delivers the idea and the feeling of it. But in terms of it stacking up, like, actually playing it, it's okay. Like, it's not really fantastic or anything. It's a fun game. But the idea of the game is almost more powerful than the game itself. You know, standing here... the Cold Wind of France. I forget the title. No, The Stranger I Remain. You know, the Sam fight. I forget, but I forget the name. But I can sing it like da 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 da. Only the no, I can't. A desolate place. Those songs, those themes, those battles, they are so intense and so iconic. They really outlive the game. And I really think that like developers or game producers, not game producers, because like AAA is kind of done. They're kind of in a weird Ouroboros state of devouring themselves and canceling and not producing any actual artistic products. They're money-making products now. There's less and less artistic ingenuity every single year that passes, and anything that shows nuance is canceled. At least in Xbox's field, and it's just writing off the corpses of its past grandeur, similar to the movie industry and music for sure. Which seems to make bad content on purpose now. And so I feel like games are unfortunately headed the same direction in this case. So the real people, the real developers I'm talking to are like indie developers. 10 years from now, I kind of see all these small indie studios making these small games that are based off, again, old concepts, like WarioWare, Kingsfield, like, hey, remember this game? We're gonna make it, but indie now. I think those are gonna be the people who are actually gonna make the real stuff. I think the Valhalla Cyberpunk people are making an actual action game. Like, these people got their start, and they're actually making the real games that I want to see. The indie, interesting, weird ass games with weird advertising. Well, they don't have any advertising, but the kind of games in the 90s that would get weird advertising. But yeah, I think they should really invest and consider heavily the power and effect of music to sell the identity and the soul of the game. If you can make a song for your game or some kind of theme, I think you're more than halfway there. Even if people are like, oh yeah, there's this song for that one weird game that never took off and I'm never going to play it, but I still like the song. That kind of, that's advertising, that's marketing, really. You can have a lot of retention just from the music and the ideas powered by the music. And I'm probably going to eat my words because there's going to be some stupid game that comes out that has terrible gameplay and they just focus on making music, and some weasel, some SoundCloud guy like retires and weasels his way by doing that. I don't know. Anyway, there's always a downside to every genius idea, I guess. But I think it's really interesting to think about the physical thing becoming real. In the sense that, you would, I imagine like in Bloodborne 2, you have like a bunch of body parts and each one has a note. And when you assemble that person or that idea or that thing, whether you're fighting with them or against them or as them, their theme song would play. But there's some really interesting correlation between, you have an idea and then you speak the words of the idea, and then you add vibration to those words, then they become song, and it's almost manifest. It's the closest thing to manifesting an idea in the physical world so that it affects things. It also reminds me of an anime, Blood Plus, where the ultimate like villain's goal is to sing at an opera, and the music will like turn everyone into vampires basically, or into these weird chupacabra like things. So yeah, there's some kind of mechanic in some game, or just even mechanically or thematically, where song itself affects the entire world, because you're taking an idea and elevating it into the most resonant, palpable, accessible version of itself. It's like taking a drug and refining it into like a pill form or something. I don't know how else to express it besides that. But again, I just find it to be such a fascinating endeavor. And I really didn't have a point to this video. I just wanted to ramble about Earthbound, I guess. And I never even got really to talk about Undertale. But yeah, it's a weird thing that Undertale, out of all of these games as a kind of a spin-off to the Mother series, is legitimately, I think, the best. I think it's going to be even better than Deltarune, because Deltarune has a bunch of like episodic things and a lot of like filler in it, kind of. It might be seen as filler later, but just Undertale is just so tight that yes, it has silly themes, yes, it has character development, yes, it has goofy characters and sidetrack stuff, but it tells a concise, contained, holistic story that is very multifaceted, with the genocide route and the good route or whatever, I forget what it's called. That it really is the best, and I think it's a wonderful thing that it actually is as popular as it has gotten, even though there's a bunch of people who are gonna be, how do I say this, obsessed, like fanatical about that one game. I think it'll at least expose it to a lot of people that will show them like, oh yeah, this is actually something of very, you know, very, very, very valuable, very decent, very whatever. And yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much the video. I really don't know where I was taking this, but maybe you guys have some examples or some ideas of when music actually acts as a mechanic in the game, when a musical theme might have actually emphasized and made a certain moment in the game so much stronger, or maybe, you know, the lack of music, like in games like Dark Souls. Anyway, that's pretty much the video. I'm kind of here, and I've ran out of thoughts to give. But yeah, music in games is just so important to me. It's the connection between the idea and the vibrations and the player controlling those ideas and aspects and in the struggle of the game. Anyway, that's it. That's all I want to talk about. Bye.